Hello there, my dearest vampire squad. How are you today? I hope you're well, and thank you for tuning in to the second chapter of the Maggie Chronicles. This chapter is thus titled, My dad and I live in a really weird hospital. My body doesn't look normal on the inside. If that piques your curiosity, be sure to stay tuned. If you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe. And without further ado, let's get started. Hey, it's Maggie again. You guys were really nice to me last time, but I'm doing a lot worse than yesterday. Something happened, and I don't know how to say this, but I guess I'll just start at the beginning. First off, though, some of you asked me a few things that I want to answer real quick. I wanted to talk about them anyways, so it's good you brought that up. Yes, there are mirrors here, but only in the bathrooms. My room doesn't have one, so I have to use the one accessible to everyone in the hallway. Dad says never to look at my reflection too long, though. He says girls worry too much about their looks, and that I shouldn't be like that. And I always do what Daddy tells me to. As for my age, I don't want to say how old I am exactly because it's the internet and it scares me. Also, I've always been living here at the hospital. I don't know if we've ever lived anywhere else, but I can't remember. Also, I don't know anything about my mother, and I've never wondered about her. Dad's here for me, I'm not missing anything. So anyway, I had to talk to Dr. Ellie for 2 hours this morning. She was being really nice the whole picture thing, but I kinda hated telling her about it. It made me think of the person again, I just wanted to forget about them. At the end of our session, Dr. Ellie asked me something very strange though. Have you ever heard of something called Operation Magpie? I frowned. Something about those two words resonated with me, but I had no idea what they meant. It sounds familiar, but I don't know what that is. Oh wait, well I just thought maybe. She sighed and buried her face in her hands for a split second. What is Operation Magpie then? Please forget I ever said anything, she muttered, half-stuttered. With that, she sent me off. Dad wasn't outside the office where he had dropped me off. I felt incredibly lonely last night, so I went to look for the next best person to keep me company to think of. Jonah was in his room, sitting on his bed and staring at the TV. His room is very much like mine. The same bed, closet, small table, and television. I came in without knocking, a bad habit of mine, but he didn't tell me off for it, even though he usually does. Hey Maggie, he said quietly. A buddy of mine told me what happened. How are you? Better, I said, climbing up to sit next to him on top of his pillow. I'm sorry I didn't come to see you. I wasn't sure if you wanted to talk to anybody. I do, just not about the picture. Oh, alright then. He fell silent and we watched TV for a little while. There was a rugby match on, I didn't really care for it. Jonah, what's Operation Magpie mean? My friend flinched. He flinched so hard, he dropped the remote onto the floor beside the bed. You remember Operation Magpie? He stammered. In his eyes, a mix of joy and disbelief I couldn't place. No, but Dr. Ellie mentioned it earlier. Jonah deflated. Well, I'm not supposed to say. He sounded disappointed. Why not? Who's keeping you? That would be your dad. What? Jonah shrugged. This is not easy to say. I could try to talk around it now, but... Okay, let's say Operation Magpie had to do with my job. And by extension, your dad's. But that's all I can tell you. You're not making any sense. At all. I'm sorry, but how am I supposed to say this? I want to tell you, but I can't. Jonah's voice was low and empty. I still had no idea what he was saying, but there was a feeling of dread rising within me that I simply couldn't shake. Mags, your father's a genius. My leg is doing well, and he's made so much more stuff like it. It's so much more complicated stuff. You should know that this kind of technology, the way we can replace parts of the body here, hardly anybody outside the walls has access to that sort of thing. And we have your dad to thank for it. I mean, not only him, of course, but there's the other doctors and nurses, but they're doing amazing work, but the prosthetics, they're mostly Jack's thing. My jaw must have dropped. Jonah went on. He drafts them. He oversees their development. He does a lot of the engineering that goes onto it, and he made it possible to cover them up with realistic looking skin. He's the most intelligent man I've ever met. Then why do you hate him? Because he's also the craziest. He's messed up in the head. And why does he hate you? Jonah sighed. Look, Jack and I have something of an ongoing feud. He's done something I don't agree with. Something really bad. There's hardly anyone who confronts him about it, but I do. He knows he's wrong, but he keeps trying to justify it. I give him the truth, but he doesn't want to hear it, and that's why. Yeah, but what did you do? I can't tell you, alright? Jonah groaned, wiping his forehead. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to leave me alone about this. I hated giving in like that, but I didn't want to argue with him either. I stayed in my friend's room for another hour, trying to make small talk and watching the game with him. Eventually, I fell asleep, and Jonah had to poke me in the arm until I woke up again. You should go to your room if you want to sleep, he told me. It's bad enough you come in here without knocking. I'm not gonna let you take my entire room. I told him I apologized, and he just laughed and said, I was acting a little bit like a cat. I made my way out into the hallway and back into the room. I wasn't sleepy anymore, though, for some reason. I hadn't seen my dad all day, and I couldn't stop wondering why he hadn't showed up to look after me at least once. I was starting to get a little more worried. After future futile attempts to try and occupy myself, I gave up, and I could hear the loud clacking of heels approaching. I saw Dr. Elliot walk towards me from the very back of the hallway, where Dad's office was located. As she came closer, I realized she was sobbing quietly. Her shoulders were trembling and she was wiping her eyes. I stopped her in her tracks. What's wrong? I asked her. Maggie? She sounded like she hadn't noticed me standing there until I'd spoken up. What were you going to my dad for? We had a pretty big fight, your dad and I. You won't be seeing me around here anymore. Why not? Did Daddy make you cry? She sniffed, stifling a chuckle. A little bit. What'd you fight about? I took a step towards her and searched my pockets for a handkerchief for her, but couldn't find anything. I don't get it. Everyone's got some kind of problem with Dad. Your dad does a lot of stuff that make a lot of people very upset. Me too. I've tried to talk sense into him, but, well, he's finally made good on his threat. He always told me that he'll have my job if I don't stop pestering him. And now he's actually having me fired. No way. I'm telling him about my nightmares and but you. I'm gonna talk to him. That's sweet, but I doubt it will help. I shrugged. I'm just gonna try, okay? No harm in trying. I went past her and into Dad's office. I came in without knocking again. He was sitting at his desk, and first he didn't seem to notice me at all. He was staring at something that was lying in front of him. I couldn't see it since it was obscured behind all this other stuff cluttering his workspace. But he was moving one of his arms over to the thing, almost like he was trying to pet a kitten. His eyes were so fixated on the object that it felt like he wasn't present at all. His mind was miles away. It almost looked a bit creepy. "What do you have there?" I asked. Dad flinched as his head jerked up and he let out a tiny gasp. In a matter of seconds, he tore open the upper drawer of a desk and dropped whatever he'd been stroking inside. He slammed it shut. I was confused. Why was he in such a hurry to hide this thing from me? "Nothing," he said. "You really need to learn to knock at the door before coming in. It's rude, you know. One day you might see something you don't like." "Like what?" He threw his head back inside. "You're killing me." "So what is it?" "You didn't come to see me all day. Were you busy?" "Yes, sorry. You didn't get lonely, did you?" He waved me over to him and patted his leg. I'm a little big for sitting on his lap, but he says that's okay. He says he dreads the day I outgrow him. So I sat down and hugged him, and we talked about how I was feeling and all that. We talked about how I was staring at the drawer a whole time. Dad noticed. "We should go. Let's grab a snack or something." Just as we were getting up, one of the nurses came rushing back in. He looked panicked and seemed to be in a hurry. "Jack, you've got to come over to the B station. There's been an emergency and we need an extra hand." The B station is another wing of the hospital, one where I'm not allowed to go on my own. Dad immediately followed the nurse out the door, dragging me along with him and apologizing over and over for having to leave me to myself again. He dropped me off in the mess hall and told me to get something to eat myself. All I could think of, though, I hadn't locked his office door on the way out. Once he was out of sight, I turned around and walked all over the place into the section with the researchers' workplaces. I was all alone in the hallway, but knowing I wasn't supposed to be there still made me feel watched somehow. I quietly pressed the handle of my father's office door and slipped inside. Without Dad in it, the room was kind of oppressive. The walls seemed high, yet way too close at the same time. I sneaked over to the door and over to the desk. I opened the top drawer. When I laid eyes on what was inside, my heart sank. It was a bone. It was smooth and white, and almost slender in shape, one end broken off and splintered. I slammed the door shut and stormed outside, closing the door behind me and colliding full force with someone right behind him. I whimpered and spun around to find myself face to face with Jonah. His jaw dropped when he saw the look on my face, and he immediately rested his hand on my shoulder, awkwardly trying to comfort me. "What's wrong?" he asked softly. "What happened?" I took deep breaths, and nodded slowly at him. But they came too fast. It was hard squeezing words out in between. "There's a bone in Dad's office. It can't be from any kind of food. It's too big and too clean." Jonah's face fell, but he said nothing. "Why is it in there?" I panted. "Jonah, what's going on? How did you find it?" I saw him play with it earlier, but when I came in, he put it away. Okay, calm down. We should leave here. He reached for my hand and I let him pull me along into the section of the station intended for us patients. I don't really want to be seen running around back there. Jack's always looking for an excuse to give me hell. I don't want to serve it to him myself. I just saw you walk there and I thought I should check on you. My breathing slowed and I nodded at him. Thanks. Hey, you don't have your crutches anymore, I remarked, but he ignored it. Look, there's something I need to talk to you about, so I can't really keep it any longer and I don't want to, so I can't just bust out a whole story here, but I'm not the only one who tried to give your memory a little shove in the right direction. My memory? I was puzzled. Jonah groaned. Never mind. But there's one thing I want to talk to you about. You've seen my leg, yes? Notice how I didn't have a single hair there? I nodded wordlessly. Apart from your eyebrows and lashes and that on your head, do you have hair anywhere else in your body? Rude, I said. Jonah let out a forced laugh. You don't get it, do you? He grabbed me by the arm without even giving me the chance to protest. He dragged me down the hallway and into one of the bathrooms. It was the ladies' room, but no one else was around to see us, so it didn't matter. Inside, Jonah ushered me over to one of the sinks. Give me your hand, he ordered. I hesitantly reached out and let him position my arm over the edge of the sink. Then he pulled out something small and shiny out of his pocket. It was one of those tiny knives surgeon cuts you up with. My stomach sank and I immediately tried running for the door. But Jonah's other hand was wrapped around my wrist before I knew it and pulled me back. I opened my mouth to scream, but Jonah shushed me. Quiet. This isn't gonna hurt, I promise. I really need to show you something. I was trembling and already feeling tears in my eyes, but I obeyed. I didn't want to risk him taking that scalpel to my throat, though. Jonah slowly brought the tip to the tiny blade down my lower arm. He'd been wrong, it did hurt, but oddly enough, not nearly as much as I expected it would. It was almost unnoticeable. Still, I squirmed in his grip and whimpered like a crying puppy. But it was more due to fear than actual pain. I turned to look away. I couldn't bear to watch. Finally, he set the knife aside and I risked a quick glance. There was no blood on it. Frowning in confusion, I looked down at my injured arm. Jonah had cut out an unfinished square. I could see the 3 lines the scalpel had left, but without the anticipated red drops protruding from them. Jonah carefully shoved the tip of his finger underneath my skin. I gagged when I watched him lift it up, press his thumb against it on the other side, and cautiously peel it back. I thought I had been horrified when I seen the picture of that mangled body in my room. But when I laid eyes on what was underneath my skin, a new kind of shock took a hold of me. The inside of my arm wasn't red, veiny and meaty as I always thought. It was black, smeared in some sort of slimy, transparent glue, but still shiny, almost exactly like Jonah's leg before it gotten its coating. I had never questioned the working of my body. That was me. That was my shell. There were legs that carried me and the arms I used to carry food to my mouth. I had always felt like myself, unrestricted by any bodily ailments, free to move however I wanted. How would I have known there was a metal inside me, or plastic, or whatever I was? I think I fainted because I can't remember anything after that sight. I woke up in my bedroom, though. Jonah had probably brought me back. My head was reeling and I only got to grab the trash can because I needed to hurl a little. When I started to feel better, I sneaked off into the computer room. And that's where I am now. I don't know what to make of this yet. Dad has to know about my arm. But I keep wondering if my arm's where it stops. What if I'm all plastic underneath this? What Jonah said really made me think. I actually don't have hair like anywhere. I searched the web, and as it turns out, kids my age normally have body hair, even if it's still really thin and almost invisible. I don't have any of that. Nowhere. It's just smooth, hairless skin. What scares me even more than that is I searched my face for it as well. And apart from my brows and eyelashes, there was absolutely nothing. But that's not even all. Something else doesn't add up here. Dr. Ellie found me in the computer room a little while ago. Our exchange was short, but it weirded me out nonetheless. There you are. I've been looking for you. Is everything alright? I didn't want to tell her about my arm first, but she knew already, seeing as she went on with, Jonah and I have talked. I know what he showed you. I have to be frank with you, I've known for a long time. She took a few steps toward me, then leaning close to speak into my ear. Just don't tell your daddy what you found out just yet, okay? I felt her slide something cold and smooth into my hand. This is the key to my office. They won't clean it out until tomorrow night. But I won't be in ever again, so tomorrow, it's all yours. There's a lot for you to see in there. Be careful though. Jonah will help you if he can. You can trust him. Where are you going? I asked quietly. Dr. Ellie drew back. I'm gonna look for something somewhere else to work, I guess. But I can still try to talk to my dad. I'll get him to... Sweetie, it's okay. I'll be fine. Now you're just about to find out some stuff if you go in there tomorrow. You may not like it, but please don't resist. Just let it come back to you. She gave me a sad smile. I'm sorry for what you're about to see, and I'm sorry for the role I've played in it. I hope you'll forgive me. I hugged her. I'm not supposed to hug her, but I didn't care. Now that she was leaving, it wouldn't matter anyways. I don't know what she has waiting in her room for me, or what her conspiring with Jonah means. But I'll find out. Tomorrow, I'm going in. Wow, Maggie has seemed to find a newfound motivation. Who knew it would just take her finding metal underneath her skin to awaken it? What will Maggie find? Find out in the next episode. And until then, I'll see you later. Hasta la pizza, Vampire Squad.